All right, so we've started working on the server side. Let's see how we can integrate the server side with a React application. Okay. So this assumes that you already have a server-side application, that you perhaps have even a React application that might have some UI already, and that if not, this walks you through implementing a quick middle tier that it's working and that you're deploying it to Heroku. We're not going to deploy to Heroku today. And so let's get started with a simple web service, course web service. So we have our data model where we have faculty that might have many courses, that have modules, lessons, topics, and widgets. So let's get started with perhaps a data model for the course. Right? So let's create here in our model. Let's create a course. There's a course that for now, let's keep it simple. It'll just have an ID and a title, right? Plus the necessary setters and getters that go along with that. Okay? Right? We don't need that anymore. Once we have that, we want to have a service that would allow us to create, retrieve, update things about everything that has to do with courses. So let's create a service for that. So in the services, we'll create a new class called course service. It'll be a REST controller. And for now, we'll just store it in a local array of courses. Java lists, there we go, okay. And for now, we'll just return a list of all the courses, which right now will be empty, no courses. All right, notice that we're following RESTful web service / course, and the name is aptly named find all courses, which returns just an array list of all these courses. Okay? All right, let's see. What else we would need here? We would need also a client that might retrieve this. For instance, we might let's see, add a couple courses here to make sure that we are receiving all these courses. Maybe let's create a new course C1, new course, and course C2 equal new course. Maybe takes arguments an ID and the title, CS5610, and then 234, and then this, then this might be CS5200. I don't believe we have those constructors, so let's add those constructors. There they are. That take as arguments these parameters. So I and title is equal to a string. We'll probably need the default constructor. There we go. And now that we have the two courses, we might want to add them to the array. This might be courses.add C1 and courses.add C2. If we restart this and we try to hit it, this might look something like this. API courses, course, comes back with the array of courses. Now, if I hit it again, it's just going to keep adding the same courses over and over, right? Because it's the same list. That's fine. We'll deal with that in a minute. All right. So what we'd like to be able to do is how do we interact with this from React? So let's create a React application that can interact with this. So let's move out of here, and this will be let's create React app whiteboard fall 2018 client React. So while that's going, what we'd like to be able to do is use the singleton pattern we introduced last week, right? That is going to be the mirror image of whatever the server-side web service is, right? So if the web service has find all courses, has create a course, or find a course by ID, or things like that, the mirror image would be implemented in the course service on the client side. Right? Now the client side, instead of maintaining any data, it will always go out to the server for retrieving all this data, right? As opposed to what we did last week. Last week we had a hard-coded array of courses, yes? Instead, here what we're going to do is we're going to replace all that hard-coded arrays and whatnot, right, to instead go out to the server. Okay? Now, one of the complexities is that the way we implemented it last week or the week before was that the calls from the components to the service, they were all synchronous calls, right? Meaning the components called the find all courses and it immediately came back with a hard-coded array. This time around, this hard-coded array or whatever array actually lives in some other server, in some other process, okay, that we can only access it through some HTTP request. Okay? So the implementation is fundamentally different. Right? We cannot have the, what we'd like to have the client do is generate an HTTP request and then come back with the data and then associate it to whoever called it. Right? But because these are two processes that are executing in two separate CPUs in two separate parts of the world, we can't have one of them waiting for the other, literally waiting for the other to come back. Right? It might never come back. Right? The HTTP request might fail. Right? So the client who makes the call cannot rely on the server to ever come back. Right? So it has to be a very loose dependency between the client and the server. Right? Instead, we're going to be using a technology called AJAX, right, that allows clients to delegate these HTTP requests, delegate them to the browser, and the browser will take care of the HTTP requests, leaving the JavaScript thread, the single JavaScript thread, free to continue doing whatever it's doing. Right? So it's not going to tie up the JavaScript thread waiting for the server to come back. All right. All right. So so it looks like it's available. Let's open it up with our favorite IDE. Let's see. Let's open up the project. Let's close project. Stop loading. How many are you opening? Oh my goodness. Ah! What are you doing? Close. Okay, open. Which one was it? WebDev. Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. Close project. Hello? Busy. Did it just die on me? Oh no, there it is. Okay, let's see. WebDev, 2018, fall. React, client React. There we go. Okay, so let's go fetch some courses. Let's throw these away. And new file. So this is index.javascript. And this might look something like what? Let's see. This might be something like import React from React. And this might look something like import React DOM from React DOM. And this will be something like React DOM.render. And this will be something like h1 hello. And this will be something like document dot get element by ID root, right? And this will be, where are we? Let's see. Which one? For client, there we go, npm start. There's another app on this port. What? Oh, there it is. I'd say no. Wait, what? No. I didn't want you to start. Okay, so we're there, right? All right, so let's create a simple component that fetches those courses from our server. All right, so let's do that. So let's create here in a directory called component. We'll create a course list. So this will be course list.javascript, and this will be import React from React. And this will be something like const. Actually, we'll need this to be a full class, right? So this will be a class course list. Extends. We'll need a component. This is component, right? And this will be a constructor. Oops. And this will be something like super constructor. All right. And then just to make sure that this is rendering, let's just return h1 course list. And we'll expose this. We'll say that we're going to export this to the default package. So that from the index, we can load it here and render course list. OK, we have the course list. All right, so let's go fetch something from the server. So one place that we can fetch it is a good place to fetch it is from the component did mount fetch data. Okay. And what we'd like to be able to do is to fetch it through an HTTP request and then render it right here. Right? So what we'd like to be able to do here is to render a list of all the courses that come back from the server. Right? And we'd like to render from the state that is going to be updated from wherever we retrieve it from the server. So somewhere here we'd like to be able to say this.setState, all the courses from there. So to do that, first we're going to need to initialize the state, and the state will be the courses. Initially, it will be empty, no courses. Right? At some point, we're going to have to make a query. Right? We're going to have to update that state with the data that comes from the server. Right? And here we would like to be able to iterate over that, maybe do a UL and do a map over that list. Right? So something like this.state.courses, we'd like to map over this. And this would be the course with the index, and return here a list item for each one of those courses. Right? So where you have the unique key with the index, and then rendering here the course.title. And ideally, that would render that list of courses. Right now, it's not rendering anything. It's empty since there's nothing in that array. Right? Just to make sure that that would work, we could put maybe something here that just to try it out. Right? So title CS 1800. That would render. All right? So that rendering does work. But to get started, this is going to be empty because the data is actually going to come from the server. Right? It's going to come back from where? From here. This is what we'd like to be rendering. Probably is going to complain that the IDs are not unique. Right? Probably React is going to complain about that. That this 1, 2, 3 is twice in there. But we'll fix that in a minute. All right, so how do we fetch it? Well, we fetch it using fetch. Right? So JavaScript has a function called fetch that allows it to do just that. Right? Retrieve things from a remote URL. Fetch. And fetch takes as argument the URL where we want to retrieve things. And the URL, we know what the URL is. That is the URL. Right? That's where we want to retrieve it from. So we can provide the actual URL. Now fetch uses by default an asynchronous HTTP request, right? That it doesn't let the JavaScript thread block. Right? We mentioned earlier, right? We don't want this single thread JavaScript to block, waiting for this thing to come back. It might never come back. Right? So what fetch does is that it delegates this request to the browser. The browser knows how to handle multi-threaded HTTP requests all day long, but our single-threaded JavaScript doesn't know how to do that. Right? So it's going to delegate this to the browser. You do it. Right? And then notify me when it comes back. Notify me. The way we're going to be notified is by registering, in this function, registering a function, a callback function, where the browser will notify us. It says, hey, the server came back, right? And this is the response. Right? This is the response that came back from the server. What do you want to do with it? Right? What we'd like to be able to do is parse it. It says, I know it's a request. It has all sorts of metadata in there. But we want to extract the body response that came back from the server. And so we can do response.json. So parse it as JSON. Extract the body, right, and give me that. That is going to then going to come back with the actual body parsed as JSON, which presumably, hopefully, contains the courses, right? Which we then do whatever we want with it. In particular, what we'd like to be able to do is set the state. Right? We'd like to say that the courses is equal to this courses object that comes back from the server. Okay. Right. So for the React, notice that we need to keep track of what's going on behind the scenes. Notice that we have an error. If we look at the console, notice that it say, hey, I went to go fetch it. Notice that it did. Our fetch actually did fetch it. Look at that. It went localhost API course. We can take a look at the request. The browser has no problem, but the JavaScript has a problem. Right? We can look at the network. Right? The network. The query went out. Oh wait. Why are you not? Oh well, because it gave an error. It says you are running at localhost 3000, but you're trying to access localhost 8080. Right? The browser says that's a no-no. You can't do that. You can't be in one domain trying to access another domain, right? That's considered to be a security risk, right? Unless I'm going to go ask the server, hey server, is it okay that you are an 8080 and this other person from 3000 is accessing you? And the server, by default, is going to say no, right? I don't know who 3000 is. I don't know who this other domain is. So by default, it's going to balk at this. And the server is going to say no. So we need to turn that on. We need to go back to the server and say, hey REST controller, you're going to receive a cross-origin request from some other domain, and you need to say whether it's okay or not. Right? And we can configure the various origins. Right? Where are we allowing the query to come from? Is it okay from this particular client, right? And we can provide here a string of where are we going to allow the query to come from. We're going to say it's okay if it comes from localhost 3000. It's okay. Don't be afraid of that. So let's restart the server. And are you not receiving it yet? Okay, so it's there. No access control, localhost 3000. Is it not cross origin? Did I misspell this? Origins, course service. Let's see, cross origin. Spring Boot. Maybe I misspelled it. Cross origin. And now at cross origin the slash. I'm sorry? Well, no, this just turns it on for all the requests. This should turn it on for all of them. Let me restart it again. Oh, I know. We need to also on the fetch. There is a what's it called? Fetch. What is it? Security something. Fetch same origin. Using fetch with credentials. Response. Fetch credentials. So this is credentials. And I forget there's a value. There's a particular value that goes here, which I don't remember. Credentials. Not same. Is it same origin? Include same origin. Include same origin. Credentials. Let's try that. No. What's the other one? Include? All right, let me debug this. Let's take a break, and we'll take a look at it in a minute.